If you're familiar with my company Sonora Cinematic, you might know that a few weeks ago we released a pretty amazing vocal-based virtual instrument called Aria Vocalscapes. The response so far has been great, overwhelming really, we are extremely grateful. However, I didn't see many musicians using its sample importing capabilities. If you haven't tried that, you are missing out on the one feature that will allow you to get a truly unique sound out of it. So I want to use this video to show you what it's capable of, and hopefully we'll get some nice samples out of it. If we end up making some cool samples, I'll share them with you on the Sonora Cinematic newsletter. So if you're a subscriber, just wait for the next newsletter, and if you're not subscribed, you'll also get a pretty cool sample library in return. Let's get started. I had a think about what would be worth sampling for this video, and as you can probably tell from my background, there is a lot of choice in this studio, but I was feeling a bit lazy and I didn't feel like setting up microphones, so I went for a Kalimba with a built-in pickup. Very nice, I love this thing. Recently, I've been very much into the idea of chopping off the attack of percussive tonal samples. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to first record a simple root note. Next, I play the root note with the fifth above right after. You could play both as a chord, but this works slightly better for what I want to do. Now I'm going to cut the very beginning of the sample so that there's no more attack. I find it pretty interesting to see how our brain needs and relies on the attack of that sample to work out what instrument is being played. You could probably trace this sound back to a kalimba with the attack edited out, but it could just as well be a piano, a vibraphone, or a guitar. There is a lot of interest and a lot of creativity that can come from creating a sound that our brain sort of recognize, but we can't quite point a finger to what it is exactly. That's the magic of, and I really hate this overused term, organic sounds when compared to synthetic ones. The next step is to basically compress any dynamic out of this. I'm also going to use this compressor to get more volume out of it. Basically, I'm using compression as it shouldn't be used. Doing this brings out some noise issues which are rather typical for pickups. There's a lot of hum which I'm going to take out with a steep high pass EQ and isotope RX10. Lastly, I'm going to stretch the samples a tiny bit and I'm ready to export using cycle markers. Now, I made a little mistake, let me fix it. In the official Sonora Cinematic walkthrough of the Aria engine on the Sonora Cinematic channel, I say that the sample that you drag and drop in the user zone must be a C. But that's actually not true, it's so much better than that. The mistake comes from the fact that I shot the video before we shipped the product and actually improved the engine to include Kontact's built-in pitch detection capabilities. So now you can drag and drop samples of any pitch and they will be mapped accordingly. These ones are G, for example. I'm going to drag and drop the root-only pitch in the user zone for layer A and the sample with the fifth added to layer B. Sounds already pretty good, but let's add some movement to it. I can use the volume LFO on layer B, for example, and assign some FX parameters to be controlled by the XY pad. I can also record some movements in the XY pad. Of course, if I want, I can replace one of the two with some samples from Aria Vocalscapes and get an interesting Kalimba vocals hybrid instrument. By the way, if you really want to learn how to effectively program the Aria engine, I strongly recommend having a look at the walkthrough video on the Sonora Cinematic channel. I'm going to put a link in the description down below. Now let's try something a little more interesting, but before we do that, let me take just 30 seconds to ask you to please subscribe to both this channel and to Sonora Cinematics. It helps us more than you know, and it allows us to keep making these fun virtual instruments for you to enjoy. Let's get going. This kalimba is tuned to the major pentatonic scale in G major. Here's an idea that I have. I'm going to record two variations of a free pentatonic improvisation. That basically means that I'm going to just play some random notes on the kalimba. Here's the first one. And here's another one. I'm trying to always start with a clear root note, which will help make this somewhat playable. Again, a bit of editing, denoising, and exporting. Let's import these samples and we have a magical winter soundscape. Now, something like this is obviously absolutely uncontrollable, but I kind of love it. I'm using both layers in fade mode so I can crossfade between the two variations. Some replica delay in diffusion mode and reverb help a lot, of course. Now let's do something similar but a little more controllable. Just like the impro articulations in Aria Vocalscapes, I'm going to record a one-note improvisation on the root note. Now, exactly the same thing, but occasionally adding a fifth and the octave above it. Let's add the samples to Vocalscapes, and here's what we get. Now let's see if I can make some music with this stuff. Thank you so much for watching this video. I truly hope that it inspired you to make your own samples to use with the Aria engine. Vocalscapes is available right now at sonoracinematic.com. If you like what we do and you want to support us, please consider grabbing a copy. We really appreciate it. See you next time.